The Ambitious Africans podcast is building more than conversations. We're building a thinking community. If you're navigating a challenge, transition, or decision in your personal or professional journey, we invite you to share it with us using the link below. Selected reflections will be discussed in future episodes where other listeners will offer their perspective, insights, and lived experiences. This is not about having it all figured out. It's about learning out loud, hearing different viewpoints, and lightening the mental load by thinking together. Your submission can be anonymous, and the goal is perspective, not judgment. Go into the show notes below, fill out the form, and share your challenges, ideas, thoughts, and decision points with us, and we'll be more than happy to give you some directions. Dear ambitious African, this is your host, Secho. In this podcast, we'll discuss everything about our journeys and experiences towards achieving our goals for life and work as phenomenal change leaders in our varied communities. We'll feature other ambitious Africans crushing it through arts, social activism, tech innovations, entrepreneurship, and positive lifestyle and holistic well-being. We are the generation that is redefining Africa as we know it, and as an ambitious African, now is the time to get involved. Give us your feedback and ideas for our next podcast, and let's keep the conversations going. See you inside. Hi. Welcome to the Ambitious Africans podcast. This is your host, Secho. And how has your day been today? My day has been very, very fulfilling. It was a long day, but it's been very, very fulfilling, and I hope yours has been same. I just wanted to come on here to first and foremost announce that we are 100 subscribers strong on our YouTube. Yay! Which is now your reminder that if you haven't joined us on YouTube, please go to your YouTube, put in the Ambitious Africans podcast, or go to the show notes. The link to the podcast is there. Click on it and join the community on there. The comments from the YouTube channel is always heartwarming, and I also like the level of conversations that it strikes in my mind as I prepare to come to you in each episode. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of you if you're on YouTube, I'm really, really grateful. And I would love to hear your thoughts. So please do share your thoughts, your ideas, feedback in the comments, and let's have a conversation. This is not supposed to be a one-sided conversation. I want it to be a dialogue. So I would really love to hear from you. Now, I wrote something a couple of months ago. I just saw that I wrote this on the 30th of December in 2024 that I want to bring to you today for you to also think about. It's titled Constantly Decolonise Your Mind. And now more than ever, I sense its relevance. So let's get started. I'll start reading. I have a degree in sociology, and what that means is that I spent several years learning how society works. That is, how systems, narratives, cultures, and histories come together to form what we experience as reality. Through studying sociology, I gained the tools to critically assess the world system, how power operates, how institutions are structured, and how decisions are made and sustained over time. In my studies, I learned how organizations function, how systems are designed, and how structures shape behavior. Today, as someone who works in marketing, I do this work practically, helping businesses refine their systems so they can function more clearly and efficiently. Because of this, I think deeply in systems. Sometimes it feels like a burden, but I can't help it. I see everything as a system. Family systems, governance systems, national systems, and the global system. Nothing exists in isolation. What becomes clear when you begin to think this way is that many things are wrong in subtle ways, not necessarily broken, but constructed. One of the most important disciplines is learning not to take reality for granted. Instead, you condition your mind to step outside of what you've been taught, to accept. I'll take that again. Instead, you condition your mind to constantly step outside of what you've been taught to accept as normal and trace the series of events, decisions, and responses that led to the present moment. You can apply this lens at multiple levels. As a citizen of your country, within your own family systems, in your personal life, and in how the world operates at large. One of the biggest lessons I've learned this year is that constantly unpacking experiences from this perspective helps you better understand what is really going on and make more intentional decisions as a result. This is where the idea of decolonizing your mind comes in. It is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong practice. Given how far the global system has evolved, especially if you're African or live in a part of the world not considered Western or advanced, this work becomes even more necessary. Many things we accept as normal do not rise or raise organically. Many of these did not arise by happenstances. They are contracts and sometimes products made in history, in power, through responses, adaptations, and finally through imposed structures. They are essentially products of history, all wrapped in one. Understanding how the world works requires studying history without judgment or excessive emotion. Some systems exist because at a particular time they made sense for certain groups. But to fully decolonize your mind, you must understand where the world has come from, how it has evolved, and why things are the way they are today. When I explain this world system to my 12-year-old nephew, I often start with a simple analogy. Family. In a family, who has authority? Who makes decisions? How do those decisions affect you? Then I ask him to expand that idea. Think about your daily life, what you eat, what you wear, what you believe, the healthcare you accept, the friends you are allowed to have. Now imagine that same structure at a global level, where the world functions as one large family with different layers of authority and decision makers. Many of today's global decisions are shaped by past experiences and historical events, and they directly influence how we live and behave. Once you understand this, you begin to see how much of life is templated. You can also realize that if you want to live beyond these templates, you must first become aware of them, then consciously choose what works for you. This awareness applies even to the practical matters like running a business. It's not enough to simply follow requirements, that is, registering the company, incorporating, complying to rules. But to truly understand why systems exist the way they do, you need to have curiosity about history, governance, law, and even international relations. Decolonizing your mind requires continuous learning and exposure to alternative ways of thinking and organizing life. A key part of this process is separating the imported from the homegrown. By this, I mean training your mind to distinguish between beliefs, desires, and practices that come from external influence. These could include online content, global culture, inherited pressures, and those that are genuinely yours based on your own values and lived experiences. All this is not easy work. For example, during the Christmas festivities, I became very aware of how many cultural practices we've imported without questioning them. Matching pajamas and coordinated photo shoots stood out to me. You could take photos any time of the year, but we do it then because we've been exposed to a particular aesthetic and narrative that tells us it's meaningful. I'm not judging it as good or bad. I I simply find it fascinating to observe. The same applies to food and nutrition. Every time you look at your plate, you should ask yourself, is this meal truly homegrown? Or is it a taste I've acquired through exposure? Again, no value judgment, just discernment. When you consistently practice this kind of awareness, you begin to realize how deeply your preferences, aspirations, and benchmarks may not be entirely your own. Many are inherited, induced, or inspired by influences you never consciously chose. Objectivity is crucial in this process. It's one of the most important lessons I'm carrying forward. As I move into the next phase of my life, my decisions, lifestyle choices, and definitions of success have changed. I constantly ask myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, and by those metrics, especially when those metrics no longer make sense to me. And that to me is only just the beginning of the real work of decolonizing the mind. This is such an interesting write-up. Just reading it again, and it's been over a year, reading it again gives me so much to think about, and how I have been on this journey of decolonizing my mind intentionally. And it's looked different in different seasons of my life. And I want to invite you to this journey of asking more questions of the mundane things around you. Why do you like the kind of food you like? Is it because you were advertised or marketed to like it? Why do you wear the clothes you like? Why do you like the clothes you wear? And why do you think that is genuinely your preference? Have you ever questioned if that preference was genuinely, truly all yours as a choice? Let's talk about your own value systems. Why do you believe the things you do? If nobody had mentioned these value systems, would you still have them? Now, one fun thing I'm observing these days is social media trends, okay? And I was just thinking the other day, this clock it sign, when they say clock it, and then they're like moving their fingers in a particular, and I'm like, this is so fascinating. One person does this on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, and all of a sudden, I'm guessing the person who first does it is like a big influencer, because most of these things, if you're not a big influencer, or you're not somebody who people find funny, I don't know, some way, that's a whole conversation about virality. But if you don't have that impact, it won't go far. People will not imitate you. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, I don't know who did it, but the first person who did it might have been very influential. And so all of a sudden, everybody's doing it. It's like, okay. I'm like, and I'm not judging. It's just so fascinating to see how by being that one person who is trying to step out of the society to look at it from a distance, some things become very interesting. And not to do it only from a distance to other people, but sometimes you do it to yourself. You go out of yourself to step at a distance to question why you like the things you do. Why do you like the things you do? Why do you like the things you do in a particular way? And it's just a fun little exercise you may want to do. And then you would see that if you track it down, it's most likely you advertised to. There was a marketing piece you saw, whether it's intentional or unintentional, that somebody sold you this idea, somebody sold you this way of life, somebody sold you this idea of communication and expressing your vibe. And the problem is not saying that it's bad to copy from someone or to integrate how people, the larger society does things, but the import is to live conscious of what really is within your control and take back a lot of these things. Take back a lot of these decisions on what you choose to do, what you choose not to do. Sometimes even in the mundane things, even in how you wear your hair, how you show up when you meet people, what you even describe yourself with. Adjectives you describe yourself with if you're talking to different kinds of people. This is again another thought experiment, and I hope it strikes something in your mind at least. I'll see you in the next one.